from, well, I wish we were live from Rome because I'd end up having a much better meal. But we're live from Palm Beach. Not that Palm Beach doesn't have good food, but come on. They imitate New York and Rome. And they do pretty well. Pretty well. So today, of course, is a day that will be historic. It was the selection of the Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. Historic in many ways, but particularly because it was an American who was born in Chicago, the north side. No, correct me again. The south side of Chicago.
That's right, Mayor.
Yeah, I get it confused because
the north end of Boston.
The north end of Boston is the Italian section.
Boston.
But in Chicago, it's the south side. He was born in America. He's an American citizen. He has dual citizenship in Peru, where he was a missionary and the bishop of I'm not sure which city, probably the capital city. We'll have to look.
Right.
And then very, very recently was brought to Rome by Pope Francis to head up one of the most important offices to the Pope, the office that recommends to the Pope the selection of bishops throughout the world. Let's look up how many bishops there are. Thousands. And that would mean a position in which he would be in very close contact with almost all of the cardinals throughout the world, because cardinals either recommend or certainly have a voice in the selection of bishops within their jurisdiction.
And sorry, to just confirm for the audience, there are 5,430 bishops worldwide, but that number's from 23, so we'll have to...
Probably more now.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably at least hundreds a year that are being appointed, and more, I imagine.
Right.
I mean, these first of all, of course, they die and they leave office and they retire. And they move from one diocese to another. So I bet there must be 400 or 500 openings a year. So he probably recommended a couple of thousand bishops in that period of time. Probably 2,000 bishops.
That's right. So this is the...
And if you're expanding too into these new, do you call them markets? I guess, I don't know, but they're expanding greatly in different continents, Africa in particular. Maybe it's even grown significantly more than we'd expect.
So we're going to discuss the Pope a little later in the show, because if you were watching the Rudy Giuliani show on Lindell TV and X, we extensively covered the Pope. But we're going to cover it again toward the end of the show, because this is really the most important story of the day. But the second most important story of the day is the agreement that was reached between the United States and the United Kingdom with regard to tariffs. And that's important because there had been a lot of doubt that we could reach agreement with the UK. We almost have an agreement with the EU, which would be all the countries of Europe, but it reached what they call snags. And this is a tremendous leverage for the EU to have to agree. Remember, the UK broke off from the EU, called Brexit. The man who did that, who is a close ally of Donald Trump's party, basically dominated the local elections a week ago. So there's all this thought about how, Trump is very unpopular, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But remember that the party with the second most votes in Germany is a party that supports Trump. Giorgia Meloni is a major Trump fan. Hungary's president thinks that Trump is the greatest world leader in the history of the world. And a week ago, the party of Nigel Farage, who came here and campaigned for Trump in 16 and in 20 and in 24, dominated. So sure, there are some places where he's unpopular, but he's a lot more popular in Europe than you think. That was true in 16 too, 16 to 20, when I was going to Europe a lot. And we'll be going this summer, and I will be asking people. And you can't believe, people come up to me on the streets because they know me, particularly in Italy, and they tell me how much they support Trump. Same thing was true when I went to Germany. Same thing was true in England. Same thing was true in France. I would often get something like, we wish we had a strong leader like that. Although there are a certain number of people that get really upset with his America first. There are another group that understand it and say, gee, I wish we had an England first guy.
This morning I'm through.
Or I wish we had a Germany first guy instead of somebody who lets in all the criminal immigrants to beat the hell out of us and take away our German culture and Western European culture and religion, whether it's Protestant or Catholic. Or I wish they didn't have Sharia law in certain parts of England. We had somebody who knew how to oppose that, as opposed to the Islamic excessive mayor of London, or the fact that Muhammad is now the most common given name in England. Scary, right? That's not our tradition. That's not our background. There's a grave, big difference between Western civilization and Islam and Islamic, whatever you want to call it, excessive Islamic or just the religion itself. It doesn't mean that we don't respect people who have that religion, particularly the ones that reject the call to violence from Muhammad. We don't respect them, obviously. But we realize there's a great distinction between us. They look at women totally differently than we do, right? They look at women as property. We don't anymore, thank God, right? I mean, after all the work we did getting rid of slavery, we don't want that to come back, right? So this agreement was a very, very good agreement, particularly when you consider that the Prime Minister of England is a socialist and a so-called opponent of Trump. He sure didn't look like it today. Today it looked like the guy from Canada, right? He came here. He was going to tell Trump off. He looked more like Hugh Grant in Love Actually. He didn't look like Hugh Grant in Love Actually. Did you ever see Love Actually? The prime minister has to stand up to the American president, and he pretty much kicks him in the teeth. This guy was kissing him somewhere, and it wasn't the teeth. And he even sat there while Trump said, we haven't given up on statehood. We haven't given up on statehood. Canada and the U.S. have already reached an agreement. I just don't think they've spelled it out yet. But they are trading right now probably at much more favorable terms to the United States than ever before. And the same thing will be true with the UK. Now, here's what the agreement with the UK does. The UK puts a tremendous pressure on the rest of Europe, the EU, to try to get the same agreement. Otherwise, all our trade will be with England. And all their trade will be with us, which has almost happened anyway as a result of Brexit. One of the reasons they got out of EU is so they can have a better trading relationship with us. We're the richest country in the world. And although we think we have economic problems, our economic problems are considered growth for other countries. And I'm talking about European countries. The economy of Germany is in shambles. The economy, and people don't work in France. I mean, they work 30 hours a week and then, start to complain. And they take 2 months off. Same thing as, you would never think this would happen in Germany, but it did. It did. Germany could be one of the least productive countries in Europe now. All it takes is one stupid socialist and it can ruin everything. So you look at those countries are not, as J.D. Vance pointed out, they're not particularly helpful allies. We're much better off concentrating on Israel, who knows how to win wars. Man, I'd rather have Israel at my side than France, wouldn't you? France might surrender before the war started. Israel go win the war for you. Or how about we look to Poland, that loves America, loves freedom, works their tails off, or the Baltic countries who are standing up to Russia and building a whole defense line against Russia, and are willing to help Ukraine. The last thing in the world they want to do is to be dominated by by Russians again, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, which used to be the most favorable to Russia. Or how about we go over to Asia and we go talk to the Japanese? Oh man, they have a historical precedence of tremendous armies. And the most frightening thing to an educated person in China is when you say Japan, because every time they've been in conflict, Japan has defeated the hell out of them, except the Second World War, which we won for them. Just like we won it for Russia for all of Putin's bullshit, which the president made very, very clear today. Today's VE Day, victory in Europe. There'd have been no victory in Europe without America. Stop it. Now, the Russians had much greater casualties than we did. But that doesn't mean they won the war. Casualties usually mean you lose a war, not that you win a war. I'll give you that historical analysis in a minute, because I can see President Trump is as tired of that as I am. There's one country and one country alone that won the war in Europe and obviously the war in the Pacific, and that's the United States. And too bad the man who knows that the best is dead. But all you have to do is read his books, Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill knew they were going to lose unless they could get us into the war. And he used every device known to man to get us into the war. And probably the greatest act of God for England and Europe was that Winston Churchill was half American. And he understood the American mentality, and he understood how to work Roosevelt. Now, here's why they would not have won that war without us, which they won on VE Day. Do we have some pictures of VE Day? That would be so nice to show people what America used to look like when people wore suits and women wore very nice dresses, and people said, yes, sir, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am, things like that.
Oh, this is a fun colorized version of it.
Well, how could they have done that?
They go back and remaster the color.
And that's Times Square on VE Day. You know, VJ Day is the day in which you have the sailor kissing the girl. So don't get it confused. VJ Day came later.
So on the right, I think it's a modern comparison.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so originally, Hitler and Stalin were allies when the war began. Stalin felt very comfortable being with a maniacal, murderous dictator, because they both were, Stalin and Hitler. The only reason Stalin ended up and Russia ended up on our side or on the side of England in the Second World War is not by their choice. They were happy to stay with the Nazis. The Russians were. Hitler, and probably one of the dumbest decisions in world history, after he had thrown England and France, basically thrown England off the continent, driven out all the opposition armies, and controlled all of Europe. English almost had their entire army destroyed, but brilliant rescue at Dunkirk saved the British army and a certain portion of the French army and the Polish resistance and whatever. But Hitler owned all of Europe. The real question now was he going to cross the channel and take England? We were not in the war. Two stupid things. He turns around and he decides, instead of taking England, which he may or may not have done, who knows, or even trying to come up to with some kind of an agreement to keep us out of the war, instead, he turns around and he attacks Stalin. He attacks his ally, Stalin, because he realizes that if he wins, which he thinks is now inevitable, Stalin will try to defeat him, because Stalin had the same desire to conquer the world that he did in the name of communism, his in the name of Nazism. And that war was vicious, bitter. Hitler, like Napoleon, succeeded at the beginning and got to within Moscow and eventually was defeated. So the Russians say, if we didn't do that, you would have lost the war. No. If we didn't enter the war, Hitler would have conquered them without any question. Because when we attacked at Normandy, and after the initial difficulties on the beach, we just sailed through France, liberated Paris, and we were on our way to enter Germany. And our great General Eisenhower announced, we will be in Berlin by Christmas. He wasn't in Berlin by Christmas. He was engaged on the border of France and Germany in the most bitter, vicious, and consequential battle of the Second World War, where we lost more men than the rest of the war in Europe. Because Hitler, who was a mad genius, also could do brilliant things, as well as crazy things like attack Russia. Hitler, when he realized that the Allied army was marching very easily through France, moved his troops back right to the border of Germany and France. But then he moved close to 1 million troops, I think 800,000, from Russia back to Germany, back to the border. And he changed his code because he knew that we had captured his code. And, throughout the war, they tried to come up with a new code. So he changed his code, and he also disguised his movement of troops. So our intelligence didn't tell us that we were going to face 800,000, let's say, German troops. We were prepared for that. We didn't know another 800,000 were coming from Russia, and they were going to be there, which means they say we got bogged down in the Bulge. No, we got killed and almost lost the war. Had those troops not been removed from Russia because of us, they'd have captured Moscow. They almost did with 800,000 troops leaving. They weren't retreating from Russia because the Russians were defeating them. They were retreating from Russia because the United States had entered the war and we were defeating them on the Western Front. So President Trump has always said that we much too humbly have given up that analysis and allowed the Russians to say, we won the war. Had we not come into that war, they'd be speaking German now. And they'd be doing a Nazi salute instead of whatever stupid salute they do to Putin. Had they not had to remove most of their army to come fight us. Also, here, think about this. We were the only fresh army. We did all of what I told you we did, and then we got bogged down in the Battle of the Bulge. And our best army was still in England because stupidly we didn't want to use Patton for the D-Day invasion because he was a bad boy. And even back then, we were more politically correct than we were strategic. But it turned out to be a very wise decision by accident, because when we got bogged down in the Battle of the Bulge at the French-German border, we had our single best army that had won the Battle of Africa, but never got credit for it. It was given to Montgomery. And we had them ready to go. They hadn't fought in a long time. They were the army that Hitler feared the most. They were the only American general they respected was Patton. Incorrectly, but that's just the truth. And Patton was completely fresh. So while Eisenhower is bogged down in the Bulge, losing more troops than any place else during the war, or any place else in any war that we ever fought except the Civil War, when they were all American, he makes the brilliant decision and convinces Marshall, we got to use Patton. Stop being stupid. Just because he slapped around a soldier, who gives a shit? We got to win a war. Maybe we need a general who slaps around soldiers to win a war. I mean, these are not little pussies, These are men. Tough men. Tough men fight. They have arguments. They punch each other. These guys have to go kill, not go kiss.
It reminds me of kind of your mentality when it came to the firefighters in New York.
Every so often, my firefighters would get into fights in bars, and the press would say, "You're going to fire them." I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go hire people who don't fight. I'm going to go. If you want to be a firefighter, I'm going to say you never have had that street fight. And how many of them you think are going to go into a fire and take
a burning building?
Would you rather have a guy who has occasional street fight when you're sitting in your apartment and it's burning down?
Yeah.
And this guy likes to punch it out every once in a while in a bar.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that guy. I'm sorry.
Genius, Mayor.
Yeah, let's start thinking like sensible human beings than stupid, silly little wimps, okay? Soldiers are trained to kill, to save us, right? They're not trained to figure out if they're male or female. They better damn well have figured that out before they come into the military. If you can't figure out if you're a male or a female, you don't belong in the army, okay? And so I'm sorry, come and sue me. If you can't figure out if you're a male and a female, will you please go see a psychiatrist? Because there's something wrong with you? Up here. Here. It's like if I'm walking around, if I can't figure out if I'm Rudy Giuliani or George Washington. I need help. I know I'm Rudy Giuliani. So I'm okay. I know the Democrats don't think so, but all you Republicans do. I'm the only one that picked the UK to be the first agreement, right?
That's right. I certainly didn't. And we're trying to find that clip. But those of you that have been watching,
across France in about 2 days. It's actually a month, but he comes across France, of course, with no opposition. He's getting cheered all along the way. His army is made up of real fighters. I had a cousin who was a major under Patton. All he would ever talk about all his life was Patton. You know, was Patton tough? Yeah, but he's the bravest man I ever saw. Patton had developed in his soldiers the feeling that he would do everything he can to make sure they wouldn't die, and therefore they take every risk for him. Including, you may remember the scene where George Scott plays him, and I don't know, I can't remember which battle this is, but they're losing, and his men are retreating, and he's in a Jeep with Marshall. He's sitting in the front seat, and Marshall sitting in not Marshall, another general. It can't be Marshall. Yeah, Patton and the other general turned out to be a great general also. But in any event, the other general says to him, George, you what do you mean we're going to go to the front? They're going to kill you. He wanted the Jeep to go to the front of the hill, be on the top of the hill.
Bradley MacArthur.
No, it wasn't MacArthur. MacArthur was all the way over in Asia at the time. So he goes up and he says, he looks at the other general and he says, they're going to kill you. What are we going to do if they kill you? He said, they can't hit me. He just looked at him like a crazy man and said, they can't hit me. He just made himself believe that. And he went to the front, and the whole army comes after him saying, this general is crazy enough to go up the hill. We're going to go up with him. That's what you call a leader. Not like some of the generals we have now who have so many medals that they go down below their feet. You know, like Mealy. Remember Mealy? Mealy's pretty fat, so he had a lot of medals. Whoa. They once put a picture of Mealy with all his medals in Eisenhower. Eisenhower used to wear 5 medals. Just 5 little medals. Only he didn't have his like Boy Scout medal. Those were real generals, and we need them back. But the UK trade agreement is an indication that England knows who its best friend is, even when they have a socialist in charge. This is a great trade agreement. It's a breakthrough. It puts enormous pressure on EU. Basically, Vietnam is done. Israel is done. Japan is close to done. Let's see, about 12 big ones that are basically done. And all this stuff about the tariffs turns out to be enormously positive what he's done. Also, when it's all finished and you figure out the investment that he's gotten to the United States with people trying to escape these tariffs, got to be the biggest investment in America in history.
Yep.
It's already well over $5 trillion within 3 months. That's unheard of. Unheard of. I mean, this guy does miracles, and they treat him like a demon. It's just ridiculous. Maybe that's why he's so successful. I don't know.
That's right, Mayor. President Trump agreed Thursday to cut tariffs on UK autos, steel, and aluminum in a planned trade deal, but played down the possibility of other nations getting similarly favorable terms on his import taxes. Of course, that's something you had alluded to when we talked about this and rewarding them for removing themselves from the EU. Under the framework agreement, the UK is to buy more American beef and ethanol and streamline its customs process for goods from the United States. But Trump's baseline 10% tariffs against British goods are to stay in place. And the president suggested that even higher import taxes would be charged on other countries trying to reach deals with the U.S.
Well, it's a great incentive. Also, England, the UK is, I believe, quite supportive of not trading with China.
That's right, and I think we have.
Whereas Germany trades with China like they're a real country.
That's right. And I think we have some comments from the president in the Oval Office today.
This morning, I'm thrilled to announce that we have reached a breakthrough trade deal with the United Kingdom. Incredible country. Today is a victory day for World War II. We won the war together exactly 80 years ago, so there could be no more perfect morning to reach this historic agreement. And it's beautiful weather out. I will tell you that, Keir. Beautiful weather. It's so perfect outside. But it's really, in particular, the agreement with one of our closest and most cherished allies. And we're so happy that that's the way it worked out. I want to thank Prime Minister Starmer and his very talented team for their outstanding work and partnership. Today's agreement with the UK is the first in a series of agreements on trade that my administration has been negotiating over the past 4 weeks.
Okay, Wall Street Journal, are you going to admit you're wrong about tariffs? You will eventually. You will eventually. But you already should realize that you're wrong.
Well, they're going to have to be, their headlines are just going to be filled with trade deal, trade deal, trade deal, trade deal. Oh, right. But the tariffs suck.
Canada was going to be at war with us forever. I thought the guy was going to kiss Trump. He almost tried to sit on his lap. He almost tried to sit on Trump's lap.
Well, he's a polite Canadian, you know.
I loved him. I thought he handled it just right. How different than Zelensky,
right?
Who probably
he's professional. You could tell.
Well, Zelensky. See, you'll never be certain of this, but I think Zelensky gave Putin the encouragement to go back and really hit them hard again, and basically he gave him the encouragement to try to take Kursk from them again. He had given up. He had tried 3 times to take Kursk back. He had brought in 5 or 10,000 North Koreans to fight for him, except the North Koreans ended up killing more Russians than they did Ukrainians because they can't tell the difference. They see white guys, normal white guys, and they just shoot them.
Yeah, well,
that's what Fatso taught them.
Yeah.
They do look and sound a lot very similar. Well, similar cultural identity.
Don't you understand? I mean, you got to understand the world, and you can't go around like the Wall Street Journal and stay in that little room that they stay in and keep
those editorial boards. Those editorial boards.
They write one book after another. They keep telling themselves they're intelligent, and they actually don't know a damn thing about what's going on in the world.
Think pieces.
I mean,
2,000 word think pieces.
if Putin has to bring North Koreans into the war, now I just want you to be like an intelligent man or woman that just lives life. What does that tell you? It tells you he doesn't have enough Russians. What are you, stupid? He's going to go take people that live in a country where they have one channel, one television channel. They're completely brainwashed. They've never been out of North Korea in their whole lives. They don't know anything but North Korean, what North Koreans look like, maybe South Koreans who they're trained to kill. And you're going to bring them in the middle of a very heavily contested war. Ukraine didn't exactly lay down and let them, take over. They may have killed 1 million Russians. And what do? They screw up the whole war. They start shooting in the wrong direction. You got Russians dying from friendly fire. They get into a big battle. They can't tell the difference between the Russians and the Ukrainians. And they also started shooting each other because they're not trained for war. The last war they fought was with South Korea, their grandfathers. And he brings them in. And twice tries to take back the territory in Russia that Zelensky took from him and fails. Then Trump comes in and says, let's do peace. Leave everything the way it is, and now let's start doing peace. So, and Trump says, let's do the mineral deal. And Zelensky starts to double cross him on the mineral deal, which is really stupid. And what happens? There's a split with the United States for a while. And Putin says, let me take another shot. See if I can take that back. And this time he has just Russian troops. And they take most of it back. So Zelensky loses one of his big trading cards. And Trump, we'll explain in a minute, figures out how to get another one back for him. But we have on the line with us, because we really want to get the opinion of a professional on this, Father Pavone, and want to see his reaction to the selection of the new pontiff. Remember, we had Father Pavone on last week. And how are you, Frank? You doing well?
Mr. Mayor, it is a delight to be with you as always, and especially on such a historic day. Doing very.
Well, this is a historic day, and we hope for the good.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, this new Pope, we have some connection with him here at Priest for Life, because our associate director is an Augustinian priest who knew Robert Prevost when he was a student at Villanova University. The new Pope back in those days in the mid 70s started a pro-life group called Villanovans for Life. It still exists today. And I was speaking with Father Dennis, in fact, a number of times today, and he said, this is a man who is a very gentle, generous man, a very humble man. And, we're all going to get to know him, obviously, a lot better in the weeks to come. But I think there's been a course correction in the church. So I think we were talking about this a little bit last time. I don't think this Pope is going to keep barreling down the road that Francis did. Is he aligned? Is he sympathetic to a lot of Francis's positions? No doubt. But I think we're going to see a man who is much more capable and willing to make sure that there's not confusion about what church teaching is, because it's not up to the Pope to change it anyway. Right. I think we're going to see a man who understands American politics a lot better than Pope Francis did, and that's going to help us. He is a registered Republican, and we'll see. We'll see what whether that manifests itself or not. But no, I'm cautiously hopeful here, and
I am too.
Yeah. And the office shapes the man also. That's the other thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, it sounds to me like he's a social liberal, if I can say that, meaning for the poor. Yeah. Maybe even in our case, America, on immigration, where we may have an issue.
Yeah.
But on church doctrine, he seems to me to be very solid. He seems very pro-life, not just pro-life.
Yes.
Because there are a number of times he intervened that way. He opposes women deacons.
Right.
Which means he opposes a woman priesthood. Not that I necessarily agree with him on that, but it shows how traditional he can be, right?
It does.
So he's described as a very, very solid institutional Catholic.
Right. And we need that.
And we do need that. And we do need it because if he's really smart, he realizes that's where he's getting the new Catholics.
Yes.
He's getting the new Catholics for people who are looking for structure.
Exactly.
And a lot of Protestants who are leaving churches like the Episcopalian Church or the Lutheran Church that don't believe in anything anymore.
Right.
I've even talked to people who say, Francis used to make us nervous. But even though you guys seem to be wavering a little, at least you still have a basis. The rest of them have none at all.
None at all. That's right. Well, even in little things, today we got a few little hints. He came out wearing the full papal garments, which Pope Francis dispensed with. He came out back in 2013 just with the white cassock, and his remarks were very, very. It was a solid spiritual talk that he gave. The first thing he referenced was Jesus Christ risen from the dead, instead of just saying, oh, like Pope Francis, very informal, oh, good evening, and how's everybody doing, and stuff like that. I mean, this man came out there, and from the first moment, he was proclaiming the gospel of the risen Christ. And that's the job description of the Pope, to do exactly that.
Now, what was the significance of the red of? Was that red or I couldn't tell. Red or burgundy? The cape on top.
Yeah, I think it's more of a burgundy color. Yeah.
And what is it? What is that?
And that is a traditional vestment of the Pope. When he's not celebrating the Mass. Celebrating the Mass is be a different set of vestments. But this is when he's on occasions like this in a kind of a semi-liturgical setting, giving a blessing to the world and
the beautiful stole.
It's beautiful. The stole is very beautiful.
What is that's the papal?
That's a sign of his authority as the Bishop of Rome, and the stole has the images of Saints Peter and Paul on it. And
Pope John Paul II used to wear that all the time.
Yeah, absolutely, yes, he sure did.
But I haven't seen that in a while.
No, that's right. We didn't see that with Pope Francis as much, and I think we're going to see. One of the things that always got me kind of disappointed about Pope Francis was that these trappings, if you want to use that term, are actually important to Catholics. I mean, there's a certain connect. We have a religion that very much employs all our senses. And there's ritual.
Beautiful. I was taught that. I haven't heard that since I was in Catholic school. It employs all our senses. Absolutely right.
Yeah, right. And music,
singing, dancing, words,
the incense,
objects.
Exactly.
I mean, it's like my most valuable possession is my grandfather's watch.
Yes.
My grandfather's watch is 130 years old. I'm named for my grandfather. It's a gold watch. It's not particularly, it's valuable, but not super valuable. But to me, when they were trying to take all my property from me, the one thing I asked them not to take was my grandfather's watch. Now, why would a watch be that significant? Well, it is to me.
That's right.
It represents my connection to my background, my ancestry, my grandfather, for whom I'm named. And I remember him when he was dying. That's what this is important to human beings. And that's why the church has these objects. You don't have to connect with one or the other. But if just one connects you to God, it's working, right?
It's working, yeah. And that's why, I think there's a lot of people tonight that are hoping that this new Pope will come to a more reasonable position in regard, for example, to the traditional Latin Mass.
Please.
Right? I mean,
I don't know.
What Francis did was inexcusable. It was inexcusable.
But I don't understand some of the ones, the liberal conservative, maybe being influenced by liberation theology. I don't agree with it, but I understand where it comes from.
Right.
But where does this opposition to the Latin Mass come from?
Yeah,
it's a beautiful Mass.
Yes.
It's a Mass. And we had it for 500 years. So if you want to occasionally use it, what are we doing wrong?
There's that old saying, it's attributed to St. Augustine: in essentials, unity; in non-essentials, liberty; and in all things, charity.
Right.
Pope Francis didn't implement that saying so very well. And hopefully this Pope will. He's an Augustinian, so there's a good thing. But in non-essentials, liberty. Allow the Catholics who want to worship in a more traditional way to do so. There's nothing against Catholic doctrine with that. So, we need more of a sense of that freedom.
Yeah. And, it created in the non-Catholic world some sense that there was something wrong with the Latin Mass.
Yes, that's right.
Remember the FBI memo?
Yes.
The FBI memo and Attorney General Garland?
Yep.
Basically, one of the criteria of whether you were a white extremist was if you went to a Latin Mass.
Right.
Now, they don't know a damn thing about the Latin Mass.
No.
But they are feeding off the opposition within the church to the Latin Mass. They don't think enough, and they're saying, well, if they object to it, there must be something wrong with it.
Well, something I observed during when all that came out was that, in my circles of my work with the Catholics that are involved in the pro-life movement, it's an amazing overlap between those that are most active, not just in pro-life, but in getting pro-life people to get into that voting booth and elect the kind of public officials that are going to help this cause, it is a big overlap there with those who worship at the traditional Latin Mass. And I think that some of those, Democrat operatives that were behind this spying on the Latin Mass Catholics, what they were really afraid of was that these were the kind of Catholics who took their faith into the public arena, into the voting booth explicitly, and they were going to hold our politicians accountable to the teachings, the moral teachings. I think that's what they were afraid of. They didn't care about liturgy, doctrine, and like you say, they didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
But they knew there was this overlap, and I think that's what was driving it.
Well, God bless you, Father.
Thank
You're
you.
a great man, and your fight for life. Fabulous.
Well, I appreciate you. I appreciate that, and I just invite our viewers. Let's keep.
We all
praying.
should appreciate it.
Let's keep praying for this new pope, and
Yeah, we will.
we got some prayers up there at prayercampaign.org. I appreciate people checking that out, and just thank you for your witness too. We're with you 1,000%.
Thank you, Father.
And you're in our prayers as well.
I used to always ask Father Judge. You remember Father
yeah.
Judge, right? The first person, first body found after September 11.
Yes.
He was the chaplain of the fire department. And I will tell you, he was my personal religious advisor all through the time I was mayor.
Wow.
Well, every time I saw him, I used to say, Father Judge, pray for me. And Father Judge would look at me and say, it'd be better and more unusual, and God would pay attention if you prayed sometime. And the one time he didn't say it to me? The last time I saw him walking toward the showers. Really? I said to him, Father, this is really bad. Maybe you shouldn't go there. He said, no, I always go. And I said, Father, pray for me. And I thought he was going to say the same funny line.
Right.
And he said, I will, and you pray for me.
Wow.
It was the only time he ever responded that way. And then 2 hours later, I was informed that they found his body and they were carrying it to St. Peter's Church.
Fascinating story. Wow.
Another great man. But okay. Thank you, Father.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
God bless you.
You too.
Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers. I'm pro-life.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Go with America's Mayor live on a very, very historic day, the selection of the new pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church, who, for the first time ever, is an American from Chicago. Can't be any more American than that, from Chicago, right? Right in the middle of the country. And from the same part of Chicago that one time was controlled by Al Capone. I don't know what that means, but it means something.
As a New Yorker, are you willing to remove the name, the nickname Second City?
It isn't. It's a third city. Los Angeles is the second city.
New Yorkers love to refer to Chicago as the second city.
It used to be the second city. It was the second largest city in America. But since nobody likes to get killed, everybody gets killed on the. I think they kill everybody on the weekend, and new people come in. And
third city.
Well, I mean, if they keep doing that, it'll be the fifth city. I don't even know. They may be the fifth city, but it used to may have passed.
But your pride as an American.
I know somebody
trumps.
Today, because they selected the Pope from Chicago, said we're no longer the second city.
And I wanted your reaction to that.
You haven't been the second city for about 12 years, you jerks.
Yeah, the third city.
You're the third city. You may be the fifth city. Let's take a look.
Right. Okay, so that doesn't change your feelings on that.
No, and the Pope better not change this. America is New York City is the capital of the world.
Yeah,
you know who said that?
Of course.
Pope John II, when he came to New York in 1985.
Gotta find that.
When he came in 1984, he announced at the beginning of his sermon, New York City is the capital of the world.
Oh, you must have been grinning from ear to ear. Oh, you weren't even mayor yet.
I was mayor.
Oh, 94.
Yeah.
Okay,
1980.
I thought I heard 84.
I was mayor at my inauguration. I said New York City was the capital of the world. And all these mayors started criticizing me. So I sent them all little holy pictures of the Pope. Put it on the back. New York City is the capital of the world. Pope John Paul II. Yeah. Go fight with the Pope. Leave me alone. So he better not change that. He can't change it.
He can't do that. I mean,
even the Pope
he may be the Pope,
it's
right?
It's not a matter of the Pope. You got to remember, the Pope is infallible only in very, very narrow circumstances. So if the Pope roots for the White Sox, which they say he does, even though the Cubs already have put out an announcement that he's a Cub fan. Can you believe this? And his brother has gone on television saying he never was a Cub fan. This is what they're worried about. I mean, I'm worried about whether he's going to do it with the Latin Mass, and they're worried about whether he's a White Sox or a Cub fan. Apparently, he's a White Sox fan. So I don't have to be a White Sox fan because the Pope is a White Sox fan. I have to follow the Pope only when he is speaking on a matter of faith or morals, ex cathedra. Ex cathedra means from the seat of the Pope. In other words, he's deliberately invoking his authority as a successor of St. Peter to straighten out confusion about exactly what is the Holy Trinity, or is the Eucharist really the body and blood of Christ? That would be the matter. Whether I'm a Republican or a Democrat, whether you root for the Yankees or the White Sox or the Cubs, or they may talk about that. They may have opinions about it, but their opinion isn't worth any more than yours. The Pope is infallible in a very narrow set of circumstances, and that's when he invokes it deliberately. Even if he just says it, not enough. If he just off the top of his head says, this is wrong, he's got to be doing it deliberately invoking his power as a successor of St. Peter. They call that in Latin ex cathedra. So let's be clear. I mean, a lot of people, particularly people who oppose, the idea of the papacy, say he's too powerful. Well, in some ways he is, and in some ways he isn't. So you got to understand, if you want to debate it, you got to understand what it really is, as opposed to what you think it is. One of the things I think we see with this agreement with the UK and the catastrophe that's going on in China, which is not being covered because a lot of our media is controlled by China, is that Trump is transforming our trade system. And what he's doing, and he's doing it, and maybe I shouldn't even say it because I don't know it for sure. It's just my observation. He's pointing it against China. which is exactly what he has to do because China wants to destroy us. They don't make, I mean, Xi Jinping doesn't even bother to hide it. He has any number of times said that America is a failing society, a failing country. And by 2048, China will be the dominant country in the world. And then the communists who support him, like Soros and Klaus Schwab, and who want the one world, whether they're communists or not, they're supporting the communist doctrine, who want to basically get rid of American sovereignty and have us all part of one world. They're playing right into China's hands because China sees them as allies for now. They create the one world. The biggest economy in the world is China. The biggest military in the world is China. And China will dominate the world. And the first people they'll kill will be the Soroses and their allies, because that's what communists do. Now, this has only been done 26, 27 times. So if you missed it, you're just not educated. And I'm sorry, you probably went to an Ivy League school that teaches communist doctrine, like these pathetic schools. Columbia, again, with protests, again, taking over libraries. What the hell are they doing with those stupid things on their head in libraries? You know why they're supposed to wear those things? They're supposed to wear those things to keep the sand out of their ears. There isn't any sand in New York. There isn't any sand in the Columbia Library. The only people who wear that are that evokes hostages, terrorism, killing babies, or Yasser Arafat, who killed 27 Americans. Get those damn things off your head. And why do they cover their faces? What are they ashamed of? Supporting terrorists that hate America? That's Columbia University. That's an anti-Jewish rally. That's an anti-Semitic rally. I'd rather say anti-Jewish so you understand it. Semitic almost seems euphemistic to me. It's a hate Jewish people rally in the middle of Columbia University. And they had agreed with Trump to stop that. They had agreed with Trump that people wouldn't be allowed to wear those things. It's their property. Whether you can say that on public property or not is an issue. I believe you can. I invoke that against the Ku Klux Klan when they wanted to come in. They're going to bring like 1,000 Ku Klux Klan members. I said, fine, you can have to take your damn hoods off, because there's a law in New York that you can't gather more than 3 people with a hood on. It was passed to combat the Klan. Do you know a New York group of sick Democrat judges declared it unconstitutional? And that's been reversed, and now we could pass the law again. And they're trying very hard to pass a law to stop you from going around and conducting rallies without identifying yourself. What's the whole point of it? I mean, if this is a big public issue that you feel strongly about, you can't feel very strongly about it if you want to do it by hiding. I mean, I am very strongly against Cuba. I used to go to anti-Castro rallies. I didn't put anything over my face. I put my face right. You want to see it, Castro? Look at it, you son of a bitch. Go ahead, look at it, you murderer. Why would I do that? It takes away from the credibility of the rally. Those people with those stupid sand things over their face are a bunch of cowards, as well as a bunch of sick haters of Jews in America. And here they are on an American campus that has a right to throw them out. This is a private institution. It's like a home. The president of Columbia can throw them out in a second. Get out. Take the thing off. You can't come on this campus if you're going to wear a mask. I'm sorry. Nobody wears a mask to college. You shouldn't have even worn the damn thing during COVID. It did no good. It probably spread it more than it didn't. And I knew that. I used to wear it. And every time I had to put it on, I mean, it was like ridiculous. Plus, I used to fog up my glasses. I tripped twice because I got my glasses. I could have broken my leg and not gotten hurt by COVID. I mean, it's ridiculous. And the mask, unless it's a surgical mask, which is basically hermetically sealed, not only doesn't it do any good, it probably spreads more disease than it, because it traps bacteria in the mask, particularly dangerous for children who sniffle all the time. Now, how come I know that and Dr. Fauci didn't? Well, Dr. Fauci was against masks, for masks, against masks. Depends on who was paying him. And do you know who made money on the masks? Had all the masks? Red China. Well, time to call them out on that too. And I think this whole trade system is intended to isolate China. And I think it's working. They are under tremendous pressure. The Indian-Pakistan war, don't know. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it tonight. I don't know if it's going any further. They were shooting at each other today, but it seemed like they were going through the motions. Although India secretly, without much fanfare, has cut off their water. So India is trying to inflict some permanent damage that'll last, but you can't blame them for that. The terrorist country is Pakistan, and I don't know. Shouldn't you figure this thing out on which country is more favorable to America and which one's more favorable to China? Over in the Balkans, we're in favor of the Muslim country that sent 2 people to kill my people on September 11th, and we're against Serbia. That's a big supporter of the United States. You go figure that out. And that's right in this administration. Their spokesperson still hasn't corrected her statement about the removal of the president of the Serbian Republic by the Islamics for criticizing them. He's removed as president. He was elected for 4 years and they removed him for criticizing. We should criticize him. Bosnia-Herzegovina has been the home of Al-Qaeda training, ISIS training, and 2 people who attacked the World Trade Center. Pakistan is the home to dozens of them. Many groups trained in Pakistan have killed Americans in Iraq. And we're going to support Pakistan? Gee, if India could get them under control, thank you. Isn't that the way they do it in India? Thank you. And who's a bigger opponent of China than India? And who's a bigger supporter of China than Pakistan? And we're going to be neutral? Well, you may be neutral. I'm not. I'm for India. They're also a hell of a lot more civilized than the Pakistanis. Also, they got a much bigger economy. Not going to make any money trading with Pakistan. You make a fortune trading with India. An India trade agreement also is one I think that's done. And I think the guy that gets criticized every day for something, for no reason, J.D. Vance is the one who negotiated that. We have a very good relationship, Trump does, with Modi. And I think Vance's relationship with Modi has turned out to be a very good one. And the fact that his wife is Indian, he's taking advantage of. Why shouldn't he? I would. For the benefit of our country. You see, we haven't had a president and an administration that acted for the benefit of the United States in a while. It was the last time Trump was president. And then before Trump, it was a long time since we had one that really put America first. My boss did. The one whose picture he has right behind him all the time now. Have you noticed that? Every time you see Trump, what's the picture behind him, Ted? Yeah, who? Ronald Reagan.
Oh, you're saying in the Oval Office.
Whenever he's doing his press conference, when they do a wide angle shot, you'll see the picture he has deliberately behind him. It's right on top of his head. Is the greatest American president of the 20th century, Ronald Reagan.
Gulf of America featured prominently as well. You know, the nice little Gulf of America graphic.
Yeah, Gulf
does
of
it change? How often does he rotate those, do you think?
I don't think he'll rotate Reagan.
Oh,
and gold cherubs. That's another thing.
I want to know the other presidents in that room. We know he's a fan of Reagan.
Doesn't he love McKinley?
I think he had McKinley in there.
Of course.
He loves McKinley because McKinley used tariffs.
Gold standard.
And remember, Roosevelt, who was McKinley's vice president, broke up the monopolies. And that's really what he's trying to do with China. He's trying to break up their monopoly on rare earth minerals.
Oh, he also has Monroe. He keeps James Monroe up there. Because
Monroe Doctrine.
Values the Monroe Doctrine.
Pretty good presidents.
As I do too, yeah.
Monroe was Madison's disciple.
Oh, and we love him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I love
really,
visiting
really,
his.
maybe the real
his
author of the
estate.
Constitution.
Who's that?
Madison.
That's okay.
You know, Madison was 5'4".
I think Jefferson scooted
People-
over to
Jefferson
his.
was 6'3".
I think
Jefferson was 6'3".
I think Jefferson
Thomas
wagoned
Jefferson was
over to
was the
Madison's
third tallest
occasionally.
president.
Oh, I didn't 6'3". That I did not know that.
Maybe 6'2". Trump is 6'3". Lincoln was 6'3", and Jefferson is 6'2".
Presidents are tall.
Well, they're the only three that are that size. They are tall, but not really.
President Trump is one of the tallest.
President Trump is, I think, the tallest president.
No,
Where's
Well, Lincoln is. Lincoln is the tallest president, and Trump is 2.
but everyone was way shorter back when Lincoln was president, right?
Yeah,
Some
Lincoln was
folks-
very unusual at
Yeah.
6'4".
How tall is Barack Obama?
Barack Obama 6'1",
George Bush.
5'11", 6.
Okay. Well, we won't keep going playing this game, but going back to your point, yes.
Clinton was 6'1".
Who is the shortest?
Monroe.
Probably Madison.
Oh, Madison.
5 what now?
5'4".
Jeez, oh Pete's.
And his best friend was Jefferson. It was like 6'2",
Oh, they were best. That's right.
which was gigantic.
They died within.
No, you're thinking of Adams.
Ah.
Adams and Jefferson died on the same day. Jefferson died before Adams, but Adams thought that Jefferson was still alive, and he said something like, "My friend Jefferson is still alive." And they died on July 4th. How do you like
How
that?
does that work?
How do you like that? They died on July 4th, and they had been political allies, political enemies, and then Abigail Adams put them back together again, and their correspondence. It's brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant. I mean, you're talking about how God blessed us with so many geniuses at that
At the
time.
beginning, right?
And why we think we can do it that much better, I really don't understand. Which every liberal thinks.
Right.
They
Right.
just want to reject them.
Right. That's right. Well, Barack Obama.
They should listen to their own president, John Kennedy, who one time got, when he had his
First Catholic.
cabinet assembled, and of course they were Democrats, so they got praise, and they were praised as the smartest cabinet ever. He put together a conglomeration of geniuses, like hell they were, but that's what they wrote. Okay, so Kennedy, who had one of the great senses of humor, when he had his first or second cabinet meeting, said, "You know, I read that article in whatever suck-up publication, Life or Time, or that we're the greatest assemblage of geniuses. I think there was one time there were more. I think it was when Jefferson was sitting here all by himself, basically telling that Jefferson was smarter than all of them combined."
Well, I would actually
Mayor, you missed one.
say that.
LBJ,
He was a big guy, wasn't he?
6'3.5". Abraham Lincoln, number 1, 6'4". This is courtesy of our friend Jamie, who has this great list handy. Abraham Lincoln 1, Lyndon Johnson. Donald Trump, number 3 at 6'3". Thomas Jefferson, number 4, 6'2.5". Franklin Delano Roosevelt, 6'2".
Well, we don't really know. He was in a wheelchair.
That's the thing.
How the hell do we know how tall he was? They made believe.
He could say anything. What? And yeah, probably.
Well,
yeah.
at some point, I'm sure he was standing.
Throughout
Guys.
his entire presidency, the Democrats lied to us.
Yeah, and
It
the
was a
media
completely lying presidency.
went along with it.
Heavily influenced by communists, by the way.
You taught me that.
Why we had the Cold War. Roosevelt may have helped us win the Second World War, but he caused the Cold War.
Right. Like you said, he surrounded himself with communists.
Surrounded by them. I mean, the guy was in love with Stalin. Chamberlain once told him, which was supposed to be just using him. Not Chamberlain, Churchill once told him, we're supposed to be using him. He's not really our friend, Franklin. He's not really Uncle Joe. He's just as bad as Hitler.
Right.
Ooh.
He's a fun guy.
To be fair, FDR was a little adamant at that point, but the people around him, what was that?
I can't remember if Franklin Roosevelt failed out of law school or failed the bar exam. I don't remember. But this idea that he was some kind of a blazing genius is a bunch of left-wing horseshit.
He had a name.
Who's that? FDR? Yeah. How about how many terms did he serve as president?
4.
He was on his fourth term. He was into his fourth. He won his fourth time.
Yeah, he only served like a couple of months.
Right.
He also ran for re-election, demented.
Right.
He didn't know where the hell he was the last 5-6 months of his life. And he goes to Yalta and sells out America, not knowing where the hell we are.
Right.
With a bunch of communists in with him.
I was going to say I want to know who went to Yalta with him and
Well,
and made those deals.
Probably the same people that came back for Biden
Right.
to sell out America.
Right.
The same people that were signing for Biden when he was using the auto pen.
The auto pen.
A president using an auto pen? We elect an auto pen?
Yeah, we elected
At least
AI.
if we're going to vote for it, we should get to see the damn auto pen.
Right. Well, and the mayor knows pens. Let's be honest.
I love pens. I use the same pen to sign every appointment that I did as Associate Attorney General, U.S. Attorney, and Mayor. The same pen.
Fountain pen.
But then you
Same
can't
Old
give it
school
out.
fountain pens. You had to fill them with ink.
An old fountain pen.
But you can't give it out afterwards. You got to sign it with like 30 pens, right?
Like President
on a
Trump
bill.
does.
I did it with a bill.
Oh,
With
gosh.
a bill, I signed it with
The group pens where they give them out
with
to
10
everybody.
pens, and I signed a little with this one, a little with that one.
And you give them out
And
to
then,
the.
then you make believe. You do about four,
Okay.
and you have about 20, and you touch them.
But they're on the desk, so
you tell them you signed it. and
yeah,
you
they're
give
still
it.
there, right? They're on the desk.
But Trump does that. I mean, Trump
He does.
signs it. He
Right.
really can't do a lot of pens because when he starts his signature, it's like he can't stop. You've
Oh,
seen his signature, right?
Yeah, it looks
Up and
so
down, up
awkward
and
when they
down,
do the abbreviated, like when you see Obama do the abbreviated signature where he does like one letter and then gives the
Oh,
I
pen
don't know
out.
why it's so hard. It's not that hard to sign 100 times.
I've seen you sit and sign. I want to say thousands, at least hundreds. Well, there was a sports
Yeah, I
memorabilia. I've
used
seen
to
you sign
say-
baseballs. I've seen you
there
sign
were
shirts,
I sold
books.
I sold almost 2 million copies of my book. The most unusual thing that exists is a book not signed by me. I think I signed 1.8 million.
If you got one that's not signed, it's worth
If
a
I
little
saw
more.
you with my book, I took it away from you and signed it. When people come up to me with one of my books and it isn't signed, I said, you should have me sign it. That's very unusual. You're going to sell that for more than ones that I signed. I signed every book.
What's as far as like baseballs, books, shirts? What's the hardest thing to sign? You've had
golf,
to
a golf ball.
But that's what
You've
they
had to-
say. It's the
Well,
golf ball.
ball. So
with the
I signed
little
it in a golf ball.
with the little divots.
It's
You,
just me.
you need a little fine. You need a fine little fine pen.
No, I use a Sharpie, for.
Yeah,
But that's dangerous because that could wipe off.
I was gonna say I'm not asking. I'm not getting a
collector
golf.
wants you to use a fountain pen, really a ballpoint pen.
A ballpoint pen
A real collector wants you to use a
on a
ballpoint.
baseball.
I like to use a Sharpie because they move much faster on the page.
Yeah. Okay.
I could probably do 3 times more with a Sharpie than I can with a.
Remember all the baseball? I mean, you got to do
The fountain
baseballs.
pen is slow.
I've seen you signing
A
dozens and
ballpoint pen is pretty fast, and a Sharpie is.
I've seen you sign firefighter helmets, baseballs, jerseys,
Let's
books.
see.
Here's what's
Cards.
really hard: trying to find a place to sign on a black hat when you have a black Sharpie,
I've seen that.
and
It's
then the
subtle.
white pens don't all work. But you don't want to hear my.
Silver. Well, it's interesting.
They
I think
don't
people.
all work. The silver pens don't all work. Yeah, if you buy 5 silver pens, you're lucky if 2 of them work.
Yeah.
Well, now,
So-
maybe when they're made in America, they'll start working.
So I
again.
don't know what the good was of making a deal with Columbia if they had a big anti-Jewish rally the other day and took over the library. And are they in jail or not? I mean, every one of those people who took over private property, who was told to leave and didn't, should have been arrested.
Oh, they are.
They should be sitting in Rikers Island.
They're making arrests.
Yeah, but then they let them out in a minute.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't really know.
Bragg
that.
gives them a Medal of Honor.
Well, Mayor, we have some breaking news twofold.
Yep.
We'll go with twofold. First, the president has named our friend Judge Janine Pirro as the interim U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. This coming, of course, right after Mr. Ed Martin, a friend of ours as well. His nomination was unfortunately withdrawn due to opposition from North Carolina Senator Tom
because he represented,
Boo.
because Martin, as a private lawyer, represented January 6th defendants.
Right.
You're supposed to represent. You're supposed to represent anyone. Everybody's entitled to a representation. John Adams became legendary because he represented British troops
Right.
who claimed that the shooting that they did and the killing of some colonists was accidental or in self-defense, and nobody would defend them. I think there were 6 of them. And Adams, who was a great patriot, and defended them. He became very unpopular for a while. But it's one of the great stories that you use in law school to say, the worst criminal is entitled to honest, decent representation. The government has to always be put to its proof. Otherwise, the government's going to become dictatorial.
Right. Now it's
No
not
matter who the person is, the government has to be able to prove their guilt. You can't just put somebody in jail because you think they're a criminal.
and well, this isn't the
And you shouldn't put them in jail just because they're a different political party, which is what they did for the last 4 years.
Fortunately, this isn't the last we'll see of Eagle Ed Martin. The president announced tonight that Mr. Ed Martin will be moving to the Department of Justice as the new director of the Weaponization Working Group. He'll also serve as Associate Deputy Attorney General, and he'll serve as the Pardon Attorney.
Good. I approve.
Hey, I
him
like that.
to hold Associate Deputy Attorney. I was the Associate Deputy Attorney General under Attorney General Levy in the Ford administration.
Right. Wait, say that last part again.
I'm
I'm reading.
Deputy Attorney General from 1975 until 1977.
That's number 3.
No. Associate Attorney General is number 3, and I was that from 81 to 83.
Associate Attorney. Oh,
That was under
Associate.
Reagan.
You were Associate Deputy.
So,
Oh my goodness.
Associate Deputy Attorney General
Is
a step below
and there's probably a
the
group. of you.
Associate Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney.
Is there just one, or is there
Oh,
often?
no, there are many.
Yeah, okay.
They really are. They're really about 6 or maybe more.
Right.
They really are the chiefs of staff
Right.
to the Deputy Attorney General, to the Attorney General, and then they run offices, some of the major offices.
Well, now I can surmise what the duty of a pardon. It's very obvious what a
The
pardon attorney, but what is the actual practice day to day of the pardon attorney?
Pardon attorney goes through applications for
For pardons. Okay.
and recommends them to he recommends them to either the Associate Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General, whoever is put in charge of it.
Right.
And then the Attorney General has to also sign off on it, and then they go to the President. So the President gets on a regular basis a large number of pardon applications.
Regular basis
That the
from
ju-
right away when he starts as
that
president.
The Justice Department has either approved or denied.
Previously.
Right. And that goes through a process in the Justice Department. The real work is done by the pardon attorney's office, which is about 20 or 25 lawyers.
Wow.
Well, after 5 years of being out of jail, you are entitled to apply for a pardon. And
Oh, so a lot of these folks are no longer. These are
this is not-
retroactive.
It is not well, let's distinguish that from the political pardon. The president can pardon anybody, anytime, without any rules.
Right.
The president can say in the middle of a trial, John Jones is on trial for bank robbery.
Murder.
No, let's say bank
Yeah,
robbery.
yeah, that's
I
not-
pardon him, or I commute his sentence. So if somebody's in jail for 5 years, the president can say, "You serve 2, that's enough.
You're out of
commute."
there. Yeah.
However, and that's maybe 1 or 2% would be done that way. 95% of the pardons are done through a process. And a lot of them are given out. I mean, Ronald Reagan probably did over 1,000. After 5 years, when you get out of jail, 5 years later, you can apply to the Justice Department for a pardon. There's certain things you have to show. You have to show that you serve your sentence, you haven't committed a crime, and you have to show a reason for it, like you're having a hard time getting a job, or I think of Michael Milken's pardon that took a very long time. Michael Milken, who I prosecuted, deserved a pardon. He had been out of jail more than 5 years. He'd been out of jail about 15 years. He hadn't committed another crime, and he was enormously charitable. And he probably was doing some of the most significant research, or sponsoring the most significant research on cancer. And the reason he wanted the pardon was it was interfering with his charitable activity, which is a good reason for it.
Wait,
Right.
what did he do to?
Well, it's too complicated, but he was involved in fraud. I mean, he went to jail. He also pled guilty, and he paid a $1.2 billion fine.
Billion?
Well, he did half, and Drexel Burnham, his company, paid $600 million. And
That's some fraud right there.
He then cooperated with the government, and he did 2.5. He got originally a 6-year sentence. He ended up serving 2.5 years, having cooperated with the government and recover a lot of the money that people had lost. Then he gets out of jail for 5 years. He devoted his life to cancer, particularly prostate cancer. And then he applied to Clinton for a pardon.
Right.
and maybe 10 years after now. And I remember being in the, I can't remember which hotel. Maybe it was the Willard. I remember being in a hotel with a big, it was the Mayflower, right after Bush's inauguration. I was the mayor at the time. I'm walking down the hall and my press secretary comes up to me. Says, the press wants your comment on Clinton's pardon of Mark Rich. And I said, Sonny, that's impossible. He couldn't have pardoned Mark Rich. Mark Rich is a fugitive, never even been convicted. He ran away, stole millions and ran away. And he's been trying to bribe people for years to get out of it. And she said, well, no, I'll go check. It must be Milken that he pardoned. But Milken, I prosecuted. He was convicted. He served his sentence, and he's been a good boy since then. It must be Milken. And then she called back, no, it was Mark Rich. And there's no doubt that he bribed him. There's no doubt he gave a fortune to the Clinton Foundation, which turned out to be a cash cow for the Clintons. I mean, they used it to travel all over the world first class. They used it for everything that you or I would go to jail doing 1/10 of what they did.
Right.
If you think it all started with Obama and Biden, you're absolutely wrong. The guy who, I mean, well, first of all, the second biggest thief in the presidency after Biden would probably have been Lyndon Johnson. So let's put him in a separate category. But Clinton and Hillary came into the White House having sold the governorship of Arkansas so often it wasn't worth anything.
Among other various
I mean, they came in
schemes.
as complete, absolute scoundrels and crooks, except they were trailer trash scoundrels and crooks, and they took themselves to world class.
Right.
And it's the beginning of the complete corruption of the Democratic Party, which is now useless. It's a useless political party that has to be done away with, and they should start all over again. And I don't know why they want to keep a name that was the single biggest institution supporting slavery.
Slavery.
They want to change every other name that has any connection to slavery, except the biggest institution that supported slavery and got us into a civil war, the Democrat Party.
They went
And
to
that's its
war to keep
original name.
slaves.
That's why us Republicans call it the Democrat Party, because that's what it was named when it was the party of slavery, not the Democratic Party. There's nothing democratic about the Democrat Party. They cheat during their conventions. Look how they cheated Sanders out of the nomination.
100%.
Or during one of the primary debates, they gave Hillary all the questions in advance, but not the other person.
That's right.
They are thoroughgoing. Clinton took the morality of the upper level of the Democratic Party and brought it down to hell. When you got a leader like Clinton, you all decline. Because Clinton is one of the most fun guys I know. I've played golf with him. He's also the most amoral scoundrel I've ever met, and will deteriorate the morals of anyone that he's near. And he did it to the
I'd
Democrat
just like to
Party.
have a good time.
Yeah, let me just sell the Lincoln bedroom. What the hell? You want to be in a Lincoln bedroom? Give me 50 grand.
She consented to everything.
I'll get you the big bed
He
if you
just
give me
never-
100 grand.
He was never on the receiving end as
I
much
feel
hate.
your pain.
He was never.
It would have been okay if he confined himself to that.
Maybe in the 90s, I was younger, but I feel like Bill has never received the same amount of hate and vitriol as
Yeah, because
Hillary,
he's so charming.
where Hillary was hated.
But she's so
Like
such a bitch.
I don't use that word in American.
Come on,
You don't
let's
use
face
that
it.
word, right? But there are people out there
She's an unpleasant person.
that don't like and hate.
Hillary Clinton, I know her personally.
Yes, you do.
She is an unpleasant person. Bill Clinton is charming as hell.
Yeah.
I swear, if he were here now and I was interviewing him, I would like him,
Yeah.
even though I know everything about him. He would somehow convince me to like him for the hour or 2 hours.
Something about selling ketchup to a man in white gloves,
The
right?
guy is probably the biggest scoundrel you're ever going to meet and the best salesman in the history of the world, even
Right.
including Trump. Because at least Trump is selling the truth. Clinton
I see. Yeah.
Clinton is convincing you to agree to things that's totally crazy.
Right. Right. That's a I love how you put that, Mayor. Very well put. You
But
have-
I mean, the
you
guy
have a
is
way with
completely
words.
charming.
Yeah.
And his political skills are unbelievable.
And we were talking about that. If you think about recent presidents, really the one thing they all share is how charming and
Well,
what
they
they're
don't all
people.
share it.
They're
But-
people persons. Oh, I would say Obama was charming.
Obama was very charming.
What were you?
But Biden was never charming.
Well, Biden was out of it.
Biden was too stupid to carry on a conversation before he was
mentally incapacitated. And he was
Bush was
kind of a
very
mean
charming.
guy, by the way. Look, I watched Biden's Senate floor speeches from the 90s. The guy came
His
off as
speeches were
very
terrible.
nasty,
Like,
mean.
I don't want black children riding the bus with my family.
That's literally what I mean.
Yeah, I'm not gonna send my kids to school in the jungle.
Yeah, I don't care why the
we
gotta
finally
bring
have
those
a
up.
clean black presidential candidate.
That quote that we're quoting Joe Biden.
Quoting Biden here.
That was Joe Biden, and he had some issue on Indian Americans. He said something, and now that you're saying this, Mayor, notice how the media covered all that up.
Every place you go in Delaware now,
Something about
you
India.
can't order anything because everybody got an Indian accent.
It was a 7-Eleven
Well,
joke.
They didn't like the vet.
And
Yeah.
lest we forget, he likes little kids touching the hair on his
Oh, that
one
one-
leg.
we haven't even touched them.
That one's not funny. That one is creepy.
We
You
can't
watch that one and you go like this. I
gotta
used
find
to-
that. We gotta find
I used
that.
to really love the little children touching the hair on my legs in the pool.
Oh gosh. I'm glad we're done with him. Let's.
Right? That was well. Let's play the tape.
Well, we have to get back to the news
Oh, okay.
so we can
Yeah,
we're
conclude.
not.
Ted,
We've
we're
been
off
just
topic.
I hope you enjoy 40 minutes of gossip.
I mean, that's look. They're not here for reality TV. They're here to learn from the mayor.
Okay.
But a lot of people watch a lot of that
U.S.
sort of
could
TV.
reap reward soon on the mineral deal. You have no idea, just take it from me, how earth-shattering that deal is on minerals. It's going to be one of the major ways in which we defeat China, because China has worked for 20 years to develop a monopoly on rare earth minerals. They even buy them from Ukraine. Ukraine has more. Ukraine has cut off China. They did it before the deal because China, stupidly, is funding Russia. And they get nothing for that. Now, who's going to get the Russian rare earth minerals? Donald J. Trump. For whom? Us. We immediately become competitive. Immediately. In the things we're going to need to compete with modern weaponry, with quantum computing, and all the things where China thought they were going to be way ahead of us. And now, with the animosity Europe has developed, because China supports Russia, with the sole exception of Germany, which is turning out to be a real problem, I think we can turn most of Europe against China. We certainly did it in this agreement with the UK. We can easily do it with Italy and Hungary. We'll do it with we don't have to do it with Eastern Europe. Lithuania stood up to China, but of course they'd stand up to China. They know that they know the horrors of communism better than we do. Lithuania, Latvia, Finland, now Sweden, that joined NATO. You just please watch what he's doing. Do not listen to the communist influence press. What he's done with tariffs is absolutely so brilliant. They don't even understand it. I read the Wall Street Journal, the geniuses in the Wall Street Journal. They do not understand what he's doing. And he doesn't want them to understand it. Now, if you have half a brain and you get yourself out of that ivory tower, you'll figure it out. Or you ever ran a business, which they never did. I ran a coal company. Do you know that? So the mineral deal, chalk that up to one of the best deals ever made. You will see. Also, watch the changes. If I were Iran, I'd watch the changes very carefully. Trump is now emphasizing you can't be nuclear at all. That means you can't have the peaceful use of nuclear power because you're not trustworthy. That was a big change. That means the only way we can have an agreement with them, that would be an agreement we could sign, is if we either removed or observed the removal of all of their nuclear facilities, which would be a complete destruction of the Ayatollah. I think the Ayatollah's got a year left, maybe less. You're going to see a new government in Ukraine, in Iran. Just keep watching what he's saying and what he's doing and how he's maneuvering it. Also, Please note the fact that J.D. Vance made a major attack on Putin. Remember when he was anti-Ukraine? Now he's attacking Putin. Putin, watch out. Watch out. The president has been given a group of sanctions that will crush you. Just start thinking. You really are a little economy, a little puny economy compared to ours. You know that, right? And if China wasn't helping you, you wouldn't be able to even afford this war in Ukraine. China's not helping you anymore. Now, they think it was probably one of the biggest mistakes they made because they lost a lot of Europe by doing it. And they've been trying to charm Europe. If Trump pulls the plug on these sanctions, ain't going to be no more Putin. They'll get rid of you. So why don't you make peace? And to make peace, by the way, you got to give Ukraine something. As Vance says, you can't have a peace deal where you get everything. So you took 20% of Ukraine. How about you give back 10? And and the 10 I want is the ones that have rare earth minerals. That part of it, because Ukraine has $27 trillion estimated of rare earth minerals, which is more than China. Maybe not more than China, but they're ahead of China in getting them out of the earth. We may have it, by the way. We may have it. We never knew. We had we're one of the biggest natural gas countries in the world. Maybe second. Oil, maybe third. America, if you do fracking. So if I were Putin, I would make a deal and get it over with. He's smart enough to do that. Ayatollah isn't. Ayatollah, hopefully, we just take out those nuclear facilities and Ayatollah runs away. You know, he was hiding, the Ayatollah who wants to die so he can go up and get the 72 virgins who have now been used up because so many Islamic terrorists have been killed in the last year by Israel. There are only a certain number of women and a certain number of men. How are you going to have 72 virgins left when Israel killed, 400,000 or 500,000 Muslim jihadists who are entitled to the 72 virgins? They're all gone, Ayatollah. So you got nothing. You're going to get nothing. Why they still do this stuff with Muhammad, I have no idea. And why we don't feel the courage to say that Muhammad was a mass murderer and mass murderers don't start good religions is beyond cowardice, because a lot of people are misled. Muhammad, in the second half of his life, was a mass murderer, probably a pedophile. Definitely a mass murderer. He conquered by killing. Jesus conquered by preaching. There's a difference. Moses conquered by giving out commandments. Notice the difference? Also, why is Ramadan always a time where we all have to hide because the Islamic extremists are going to kill us? We don't have to hide during Easter or Christmas or the high holy days or Yom Kippur. But Ramadan, holy shit, they're killing people all over the world. And you think it's an accident? The leader of the religion teaches them to wipe out Jews and Christians. And then toward the end of his life, he came up with a new one. Unless they paid him money. That's like John Gotti. Pay me money and I won't take over your store. And this is the guy they follow. No wonder they kill so much. You don't face it, you can't fix it. If you can't face your enemy, you can't fix it. If we went around pretending there was no such thing as Nazism like we did for 10 years, you're going to get 12 million people killed in gas chambers. If you face Hitler early on, you're not going to have 12 million people killed in gas chambers. And then we made the same mistake with bin Laden, as we pointed out. Right? Well, Bill Clinton is attacking Serbia for no reason. Bin Laden is attacking and killing us. And Clinton is attacking empty fields. So bin Laden says, America's a paper tiger. I'll go kill all those people at the Twin Tower and the Pentagon. If we had had a president that responded to him. We could have taken him out 4 years earlier. We even had the opportunity to do it and didn't do it. He was just declaring war on us. No, he was not going to make war on us. It's like Xi Jinping. He's really not going to take over the world. And he doesn't really want to take over the world in 2048. We can convince him to be a democratic leader. Yeah. Like Biden. So I don't know why we left Israel out of the negotiations and the decision on the Houthis, Ted.
Well, we talked about this, Mayor. I want to think best case scenario. We needed to keep this tight. We didn't want any leaks. We know Israel's real tight with their security. My concern is any holdovers in the Defense Department or State Department that may still have kind feelings towards the Iranian regime. We're not going to say Iran, but the Iranian regime, right? Not sure who we can trust. Best case scenario, right? Because I'm questioning that too.
What do we do if the Houthis continue to attack Israel? Do we consider that we have made peace with them then? Or do we continue to, I mean, we really destroyed the Houthis. We attacked them.
They're hitting the airport. They've been targeting the airport.
Them 30 times in a month and a half, and we hit 800 targets. And I believe our success rate was 100%. They were on the verge of being completely annihilated as a country.
Right.
And they said, no mas. We will not hit American ships or anything else now if you don't attack us. Now, they said American. The president said they're not going to attack in the Red Sea. But they attack a lot of shipping that isn't American.
Right.
It has a big effect on us.
Exactly.
So I want to see if they continue attacking that shipping. I think if they do, we're going to have to go back and attack them for sure. Mm-hmm. But if they continue to attack Israel, now they've attacked Israel maybe 70 times, only twice successfully. Successfully means evading the Iron Dome or Jacob's Ark or whatever they have. But still, every time they do it, it's a risk that somebody's going to die. It diverts Israeli defense, and after all, they're also under attack still by Hamas.
Right.
And Israel is our strongest ally, and we owe them a lot.
Right.
They were hitting Yemen when Yemen was killing us, and Biden wasn't responding.
Right.
They were protecting us and our soldiers in the Red Sea when Biden didn't give a damn Biden didn't give a damn if American soldiers got killed.
Right.
Right. I mean, the one time he had to honor them, coming back, that he got killed in Afghanistan, he was looking at his watch all the time.
Right.
Like, why do I have to be here? I should be getting my ice cream now. But these people deserve to die anyway. They were in the military. We don't like the military. We're Democrats.
Right.
We've got to get out of here. Probably didn't even know what time it was. Just probably a nervous habit that he looked at his watch. And now, who was engaged in that conspiracy? We're going to investigate that and find out who the hell conspired with him so that America for 4 years had a demented president who was right next to that button and could have pressed it in the middle of the night and we'd have a war.
Right. And that's my question. Why were we allowing
Isn't it like a almost treason to knowingly cover up a president who doesn't have a brain, can't function?
Right. But why did we allow the Houthis to get away with what they got away with for 4 years under Biden?
Because because Biden was pro-Islamic.
And
a very famous Israeli leader who will remain nameless said to me once when I put his arm around him and I said, it must be really tough here now with Obama because even when you had every American president, even when you had disputes, they had your back. Now you don't know. He looked at me and said, I know. He's on the other side.
Right.
What do you mean? At least I don't have to worry. I know he's on their side. He's on the side of the Islamic terrorists. Why would he give them hundreds of millions of dollars if he wasn't on their side?
Right.
You think he didn't know that when he gave money to the Ayatollah, some of that was going to terrorist groups? He'd have to be the stupidest guy in Washington not to know that.
Yeah.
And they ask him for cash. You think we do business with the UK in cash? We have things called wires. We send $1 billion in a wire. We don't send $1 billion in cash. The mafia does that. The cartels do that. The terrorist groups. Oh, the terrorist groups do that. Is that why the Ayatollah wants it in cash? Obama, who should be in jail for that.
Right.
That's money laundering. But Democrats don't go to jail for anything.
That they haven't for a long time. I mean, we just all we have to do is look back. So my concern with the Houthis, Mayor, and it gets complicated, right? When you start talking about Saudi, the UAE, when on the surface they're enemies of the Houthis, right?
Oh my gosh, Yemen
however,
and Saudi Arabia have been in a 20-year war.
right.
I mean, it's not.
And the Houthis control half of Yemen, maybe more. Maybe they control the country. But
Yemen
they don't
and
make up
Saudi
the entire.
Arabia have probably been at war before there were the Houthis.
Right.
The Houthis were developed large part by Iran,
Right.
because the hatred between Iran and Saudi Arabia predates the Muslim religion.
Right.
It's the Persians against the Arabs. You've got the Persians who believe the Arabs are uneducated desert dwellers.
Yeah.
And the Arabs who think the Persians are dictators.
Right. Right.
And they've been fighting for 1,500 years.
Right. Right.
I mean, Persia was a great empire, and Persia was largely predominant. I mean, some of the Persian empires were overpowering. It really wasn't until Rome. I mean, Rome conquered them,
Right.
and destroyed them, but they were the predominant power.
And it's still kind of that way. I mean, it's Iran and Saudi Arabia, right? And in the Middle
Iran
East.
looks down on Saudi Arabia.
And Saudi
then,
Arabia.
then when they became Muslim, the ones who the religion of Persia was Zoroastrian,
Yeah.
not Baha'i. No,
that's different.
Baha'i is a version of the Muslim religion, but very removed from it and very antagonistic
Towards
to the mainland
okay,
Muslims,
that's right.
both ways. But so put Baha'i aside, it's kind of an unusual religion.
Yeah.
The Zoroastrian religion was the religion of Persia.
Okay.
And Arabs had no religion. I mean, they were I don't know, they worshiped the sun or something until Muhammad came along.
Right.
And then many people in Persia, not all, but many people in Persia, many people in Saudi Arabia were converted by Muhammad. But this was a trick question I was asked at the first presidential debate by Chris Matthews,
Oh, that.
because I was the new time candidate.
Wait, we gotta find this.
He said, Mayor Giuliani, tell us the difference between the Sunnis and the Shia. What a stupid shit-eating grin on his face.
Right.
I said, well, Chris, would you like me to give the historical or current difference? Said,
He has no clue.
So he played try historical. Well, I said, it really developed over the successors to Muhammad. The Shia believe that the leader of the religion, whatever name you want to give him, the leader of the religion, Ayatollah, Imam, has to be a direct descendant of Muhammad. The Sunnis, who are the Arabs, believe the person should be elected. The first three were selected, they were not relatives of Muhammad. When they finally elected one he was assassinated, and he's called the lost Imam. He said, I said, do you want me to tell you the current difference? He said, no, you don't have to. And then afterwards he said, well, that was my question to try to knock you out.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say, I don't know. And I was going to say, you shouldn't be a presidential candidate. You're just a dumb mayor.
Right. Oh,
But I mean,
those are some interesting debates. I remember those
the fact
debates.
is that the two countries hate each other. The hatred between the Saudis and the Persians, the Iranians, is deeper than the hatred of the Jews.
That's
And
right.
Saudi Arabia knows that. The Jews are an easier target
They're kind of
for Persia or for Iran.
right.
But the real target, I mean, if they had a choice and they could destroy one or the other, they destroy Saudi Arabia rather than Israel.
Yeah, because Israel almost serves as the rallying cry, right? They can always
Yeah,
rally
and
everyone against.
No matter
Israel.
what, Saudi Arabia now is a hell of a lot richer than
Saudi Arabia, yeah, you're right.
I mean, Saudi Arabia could buy them and sell them 40 times.
Right.
You never see the Saudi Arabian economy in the conditions the Iranian economy is in now. And given the fact they take half their money and give them to Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, and any number of 20 Islamic terrorist groups we never heard of.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
People
Iran's
of Iran
behind
know
it.
that. I mean, Iran is ready to explode. Just say the word and they
Wow.
will explode.
And people know where we
I'm
stand on
telling you,
that.
if we do a massive bombing of their
All the nuclear sites.
nuclear facilities,
Shouldn't that have been done
the
already?
people of Iran will take out
Right.
the Ayatollah.
It isn't now.
And the mullahs, who are really, they're not really, you think that the mullahs are religious leaders. The mullahs are gangsters. The mullahs get paid off. But Muhammad was a gangster. Muhammad's final rule was, when you go into a village, first of all, you grab the oldest people there and kill them. So you get control of the village. Sounds like MS-13, by the way.
Right.
One time, the first depiction of a mass grave with Jewish people being pushed in it was Muhammad doing it at an olive grove that was a very, 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 very profitable olive grove run by Jews. And he couldn't get control of it. So he went there and he lined up about 12 people. And then they stabbed them all and put them in a mass grave. And then he said, okay, you either all convert, or if you don't want to convert, I get 50% of the money from this olive grove. They even have a name for it in Islam. It's a bribe, but they have a name for it. Well, that's what the mafia used to do to Italian immigrants.
Yeah.
My great grandfather had a tobacco store in Coney Island, and the mafia came in one day and said, "You got to give us half the money from here, or we'll burn it."
Right. That's how they operate.
And he resisted, and they broke his windows.
Right.
And then he put his windows back, and they finally went away. And then there was the Coney Island fire, and he lost it in a fire anyway. But in any event, that's what they used to do to Italian immigrants, which is when they used to talk about the mafia and Italians being part of the mafia. The Italians hated the mafia. They were the victims of the mafia. It's like the Chinese. Sometimes we speak loosely and we condemn the Chinese. It's terrible. The Chinese people are slaves. There are only 100 million Chinese communists. There are 1.3 billion Chinese. All the rest of them are slaves of the 100 million Chinese communists, all of whom are at least upper middle class, many of whom are millionaires, many of whom are billionaires. Xi Jinping is one of the richest men in the world, like Putin. Some communists, right?
Right.
Well, we'll be back tomorrow night. We're going to try to learn more about the Pope so that we see what direction he's going in. It's kind of interesting that he's from America, and we already have a connection with Father Pavone and one of the guys that works with him who was in high school with him. It's kind of interesting having a Pope that went to an American high school and an American college.
Right. It's amazing.
In Chicago. And you've got to see how close his house was to Al Capone.
Right. and I want to give him the, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? If you're a Catholic, you believe that these cardinals made this decision with the inspiration and guidance of the Holy Spirit and God. Therefore, people that are now trying to bring up some of these tweets and that, we got to keep this in perspective, right? This decision is backed by thousands of years of
also
church.
Have to count on a couple of things. The guy is even Francis.
Right.
The guy is a very religious man.
Right.
So even if he believes these things that are contrary to us, he does it based on prayer and analysis, and he could change his mind.
Yeah. Not like
and he can change his mind.
For example, not like the Democrat Party. And
he's not a communist dictator who's not subjected to rational argument or reason or
right.
So and there were a lot of Francis's problem was really a complete misunderstanding of the United States. He hated us because think of it. He was a product of South American propaganda about America. America is the big, horrible, whatever we are. Because South American dictators and potentates blame every problem on America because they're imposing it on their people. America has really done almost nothing to South America, harmful. Maybe it hasn't helped South America enough. And we haven't engaged ourselves in South America enough. That's a valid criticism. But that we subjugated South America is ridiculous. We don't have any colonies in South America. Spain did. Portugal did. We didn't.
Right.
What American Panama?
What do they speak?
I mean,
Spanish, Portuguese, or English down there?
Colombia for a little while, and we can and Panama. We gave them the damn Suez Canal, and they brought in the damn Chinese communists to run it.
We got to get
And
that
Panama,
back.
Panama is as crooked as the Ukraine or Russia. Panama is totally crooked. The whole government is crooked. Everything is a bribe in Panama.
Right.
I mean, it's just a completely crooked government. And we left. And,
Yeah, right.
And never.
Yeah.
What we should have done is to exercise, let them be a free country, and we keep the canal. Because the canal is too damn important to leave it in the hands of a corrupt government, which is what they are.
Right. So
And
Mayor,
they sell out to China.
Yeah. So I guess what is your closing message to fellow Catholics or just Americans who are looking at this new pope? Some have
I'm going
concerns.
to be optimistic.
Okay, me too.
I'm going to be optimistic that a man as smart as this man, a man as religious as this man, will see the right way. And he has to know in his soul that this is a very good country. Not a perfect country, but who do you want to compare us to? What country would you like to compare us to where we come out less moral, less interested in human rights, less interested in freedom for people? Who has more of an interest in helping the rest of the world in this country? Who has laid down more lives to help the rest of the world in this country? Just go to Normandy and take a look. Nobody else has a cemetery like that where their entire whole section of their youth is gone to try to save France. Who the hell would do that? He has to know that as an American.
We risked everything to end slavery.
Yeah, I mean,
that was America.
We had slavery. We also fought a war over it.
A lot of people died.
When these radical communist Black Panthers or whatever the hell they are say white people are all racist. Well, what about the ones who died in the war to free you?
Yeah, sacrificed everything to end slavery. That was us, America.
Who were abolitionists in 1700?
Yeah.
What about the people who were killed because they were abolitionists?
Right.
What about they don't get any credit and they weren't white? We lost 300,000 Union soldiers. And when you say, "Oh, the war wasn't about slavery," that sounds like Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley.
Go look at the Declaration of Secession for the state of South Carolina, her state, which she ignorantly didn't look at or deceptively avoided.
We know what she was doing.
First reason for secession, slavery. First reason, not third, not fourth, not fifth, not commerce, slavery. And when Lincoln had to reignite his army after so many defeats with so many dumb generals that he had, we had dumb generals even then. What did he do? That's when he did the Emancipation Proclamation to reignite the morale of his army. And it did. And then Grant started winning battles, and they came to him and said, "You have to remove Grant because he's a drunk." He said, "He's a drunk?" And they said, "Yes." He said, "Find me some more drunks." Great presidents always have a sense of humor.
That's true. Well, that's very, I mean, and you got to be smart to be funny, right? To be actually funny.
Yeah.
Not like lowbrow humor, but witty.
Well, is anybody funnier? And we're going to finish with this. Anybody funnier than Donald Trump? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's me. I have probably listened to, complete or in part, 50 Trump rallies.
Yeah.
Going back to he didn't start until 2016. Not in
15.
But he started really in 16 with the real formal rally.
Okay. Yeah.
Which he had a whole pattern.
You were there for him.
Yeah. I was his main introducer. I had the 1-minute introduction, the 5-minute introduction, and the endless introduction when he decided to talk to people forever.
In the back.
Before he came out.
Right.
And Johnny, his guy, used to come out and tell me the 1-minute one.
Yeah.
5-minute one. Or he'd go like this.
Just keep talking, Mayor.
And then I'd have a speech that was lined up for 5 minutes. If it went beyond 5 minutes, I repeated it. Then I go into the longest I ever went was 18 minutes.
That's nothing.
And the
for you.
shortest was about a minute and a half.
That's less than a segment.
It was a minute and a half.
Yeah.
But it was but they were always really good. But now they're so funny. So I know what he's going to say, but I never know what jokes he's going to use. And it's like watching an entertainment show.
Mm.
His invitations, his
Yep,
calling on
right.
people.
He'll call people. If something comes to his mind in the middle of the rally, he'll go down a different path. And then he's funny. And he's not, I don't think of him as mean and nasty.
We've actually lost a lot of that. I have to say that. I think with maturity, and I also think with coming close to death, he's become necessarily either coming as close to death as he did is either going to crush you or make you better. And it made him a lot better. He was pretty good before. I think he was one of the best presidents for the first 4 years.
Right.
I mean, until COVID, they were remarkable.
Especially
years.
considering he had no experience in Washington.
He also brought our economy back right after COVID until Jerko took over.
Oh, yeah. We were on the bounce. We were bounced back.
Coming back.
We were bouncing back.
Well,
all right.
So
okay, keep going. We go all night, Mayor. You know
we're all going to pray. I don't know if we really need to pray for the Pope. He seems like he's a lot closer to God than we are, whether he's a liberal or a conservative. I think maybe he should pray for us.
We need the Pope's prayers. Now we're going to pray for the Pope. We got to pray for him. Pray for the church, for the world, right, Mayor? This is incredible. How about it? We are going to bed tonight with a Pope in the Vatican.
There's the
born
Pope.
in Chicago, went to
There's
school in Philly.
There's the Pope. Look at that, Ted.
Yeah, that's Pope Leo.
There's the Pope that he models himself on. This is the guy, yes, who wrote Rerum Novarum, which the lefties will tell you was about social justice. However, it was a major condemnation of socialism as being immoral, a massive condemnation of communism, and put the Catholic Church on the road to being the biggest opponent of communism in 100 years. That was Leo the 13th. He was a great hero when I was in Catholic school, as the guy who first stood up to communism and saw its dangers before anybody else did. So let's hope that in picking Leo the 13th, it's not just a social justice part. I agree with that. That's fine. But it's also the tremendous opposition to communism as the single greatest threat that has emerged since the beginning of Christianity to our religion, which is what he said. And you should know, at the end of the Latin Mass, we used to pray to be delivered from Russia.
Right.
Maybe that's why they don't like the Latin Mass. I don't know. To be delivered from communism. And if you go back and you read the story of Fatima, Jesus' mother, Mary, appeared at Fatima to those little girls. And one of the things she warned about was communism destroying Christianity, and that we had to be strong in standing up to it. Maybe that's why they want to take Mary out.
Right.
Well, let's see. I really doubt that an Augustinian priest will take Mary out. I really doubt that an American Catholic who has a little Italian descent is going to be against a Latin Mass or even Spanish.
Right.
The Latin Mass is beautiful. He has to know that. He became a priest learning how to say the Latin Mass. If he doesn't think it's more beautiful than what we do now, he's not the cultured man that I think he is.
Right.
So we'll see.
What a show.
We'll be back tomorrow night. First, we'll be on at 7 on
Lindell
TV and X. I know it's confusing, but we're on. Then you come over here at 8. And we'll be doing the America's Mayor Live, which is our signature show, which we've done almost 700 of now.
I know we keep saying we're going to.
We began covering baseball. I should let you know.
Mayor, and I know we keep saying one more thing. One final thing. I was growing concerned if the papal conclave continued to Monday. Monday is episode 666. That would be our 666th episode. I was preparing to just skip it. We were going to go straight to 667.
Is 666 satanic
Yeah.
or religious? Satanic?
I don't know if it's religiously satanic, but at least in American pop culture, modern American pop culture, it's considered like the sign of the devil.
Ooh.
I don't know if there's any history to this, but you've heard of that, right? Yeah, 666.
So why don't we make believe? You know.
Well, we don't have to worry about it. We got a pope on 664.
Why don't we make believe it? You know what they
I was
do
preparing
in
for this.
buildings
I had
to
to
the
think of this.
13th floor, right?
Right.
They make believe there isn't a 13th floor.
Right.
They go from 12
Yes.
to 14, or
The pre-
sometimes to be subtle, they take away 2 3/4. They go from 10.
Yeah.
They go from 10 to 14.
Oh, you know, Trump starts his floors a few numbers up just to
Hey,
be
we're
a high.
we're not supposed to say that.
I'm gonna
We're not
save it for
supposed to-
tomorrow night. I have a Trump floor numbering story that's worth it. I don't know if it's public yet, so I'm not sure I should tell it.
Yeah, we'll think about it.
It's funny as hell. But,
He'll forgive you if it's funny. Come on.
so if you want to know what's really going on, not all the stuff they hide from you, you
Right
come here
here.
tomorrow night at 7 and 8. Okay.
Got to be here.
Pray for the people of Israel and the people of Iran, so they're delivered from the dictatorship they live under. Pray for the people of Ukraine who are being used and being killed for nothing. And pray for us and the Pope, the new Pope. He needs prayers too. We all do. And God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to